Hell yeah, I love that song. I composed that song. I made it. Made it with GarageBand or something, I think. Anyways, I'm back. We're back. I got young Jared again.
We are back.
Still trying out. This guy stepped it up, bought a mic, bought a camera. We're not going to be talking over each other. He's in his domain. I'm in mine. And hopefully this works out. We got a lot to talk about. Danielle Smith. Oh, so many things. How have you been since the last time I saw you?
Oh, I've just been hobbling around, me on my crutches, fresh out of knee surgery. So I'm basically just fighting with my surgeon about when I'm going to be able to walk properly again.
Now, what kind of knee surgery did you have again?
So I tore my ACL, my MCL, and my meniscus. So they fixed all of those. Well, they fixed the ACL and MCL, and then turns out the best fix for cartilage and meniscus is just to cut it off. So that's what I'm dealing with. And yeah, she told me that I have to retire from hockey, as if I guess I'm never going to the show now. But apparently all my previous scandals would come back to haunt me anyways. What about?
Yeah, we'll get to that. There's been some stuff happening in the hockey world. So you injured your knee playing hockey, is that right?
First time playing hockey, and then first time we were training. We were playing football. It was a wet field, and that wasn't ideal. And then third time, I tore my meniscus playing hockey again at a charity event. It was Fire versus Police. So,
oh man,
look at me go! That's what I get for caring about people and being charitable.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
And playing children's games.
Yeah, children.
That's for children.
Got to keep the mind busy somehow, right?
I guess so. What have I been doing? Well, I went to Grand Prairie here to set off and trying to get my old man to move into a lodge. He's a stubborn old guy. He's been living alone in his home. My mom died about 6 or 7 years ago, and he's been not doing so hot. He relied pretty heavily on her. And so he hasn't been eating right, hasn't been cleaning that place. He's been smoking like a chimney in that house, and it stinks, and the walls are just, and the house is starting to fall apart. So we've been hinting at him strongly and saying you should go, but he's kind of at a point in his life where he's so depressed that he's like too lazy, or he's just not motivated to do anything. He's not motivated to end his life. He's not motivated to make his life better. He's just sitting there stagnant.
In limbo.
Yeah. And so my brother and I basically, it wasn't really an intervention. It's just like he's very agreeable. He'll go along with it, but he needs leadership. So we went there, took him to the lodge, toured him around, showed him how great it would be, showed him the food he'd be getting, and while we were there, he sparked up conversation. His big thing is, I'm 83. I'm too young to be going in this lodge, and he's still pretty spry and in pretty good shape. But he met a couple old farmers that were even younger than him that were in the lodge, and they started talking about crops and talking about this and that. So you could see his face kind of light up. So I think it's gonna catch. But
yeah, we're my grandparents are kind of dealing with that on my mom's side. My grandpa's got pretty bad dementia, and they're dealing with it all right. He definitely drinks more than he should, which is kind of funny from the outside. Their social gathering as they go down to the bar, and she can't, he still has his license and she can't see anything. So he drives and she tells him where to go. They go down to the bar and then they get a ride home. But he's deteriorating so fast that you can't really, it's not sustainable at home. So they're trying to get him. He was just in the hospital for a couple of surgeries, and they're trying to get him to convince my grandma mostly to go into a home so that she has some help. But yeah, it's tough dealing with giving up all your freedom like that. I think is a big part.
Yeah, man. I don't know what I'd do in that city, but actually, the lodge looks pretty good. Like if my wife left me tomorrow, I'd probably be eyeing up the lodge as an option and be like, geez, she does a pretty good job of taking care of your boy here. I don't know what I'd do without her, but
you just got to convince him of all the trim in the lodges that are going.
Yeah. I'm sure that's I did
spread of STDs in the lodge.
I did mention to him that maybe he could find a little romance, and he was not having any of it
and not enjoying that idea.
No.
I mean, hey, if you
He's
like being at
awesome.
home, you like being at home.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a lot of shit to cover today. Let's start out with the big news in Alberta here, which is Danielle Smith's announcement yesterday about a suite of transgender policy. Now, the day before yesterday, so I guess what's today? Thursday. It would have been Tuesday. We heard that there was going to be an announcement about a policy, speculation, and here is what NDP LGBTQ critic Janice Irwin had to say. Let's see what she had to say about this coming announcement. Do you think she was looking forward to it, or yeah?
Oh boy, it's such polarizing news.
Friends, just jumping on here really quickly because so many of you have asked me what is
Hold on, can you hear that, Jared, over there?
Oh yeah, I got you.
Okay, let's start again.
Hey friends, just jumping on here really quickly because so many of you have asked me, what does it mean when Danielle Smith says she's going to be introducing so-called parental rights policy this week? Admittedly, I don't exactly know what it means yet, but
Yeah,
I can tell you, I have a pretty
tell you it's going to be bad. It's going to be horrible.
I don't know what this means, but I'm pissed about it.
And I know so many of you are worried and so many of you are concerned about what this could look like. Listen, there's power in the people. So many of you spoke out in 2019 when the UCP made it more difficult for young people to access GSAs, gay straight alliances in schools. So we need to do that again.
Sounds like a gang.
Let's stay tuned. Let's wait to see what the details are. We won't wait too long and we won't be quiet. And for those folks right now who are worried, who are sad, who are angry, listen, all your feelings are valid. And I need you to know that we see you, we love you, and we're going to fight for you. Who's with me?
Well, there you go.
The gay straight alliance, hey, that's going to be the next civil war. That's not going to be. It's not going to be.
Well, that thing was a big political hot topic for the last 10 years or more. Gay straight alliances in school, they're just basically clubs. I don't know much about them. I mean, I don't get. I mean, but there we have Auntie Janice, who a childless woman but she cares more about your kids than you do, and they can go to her if they're sad about anything. And she doesn't know what the policy is, but she's crying already for the poor victimized kids. So let's hear.
Sometimes I get worked up without even knowing what's going on.
Oh my God. You know what, kids, you come see Uncle Tim. Your parents, they're not giving you beer. I got your beer. Yeah, come over, come see Uncle Tim.
If we're dropping the age in which you can change your gender, at least we gotta be giving these kids booze, Have a couple beers and a wicked hangover, and I guarantee you they're not wanting to be gay anymore.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, let's see if this policy is as bad as Janice was worried it would be. And let's see what Danielle Smith had to say about the policy she's going to be introducing here.
No pronouns in the bio.
Your identity. This is not always an easy conversation to have. I strongly believe that we as a society must support and reach out with kindness and inclusion to those who identify as transgender and work to eliminate the discrimination they often experience in their lives. As Premier of this province, I want every Albertan that identifies as transgender to know I care deeply about you and I accept you as
there you go. Auntie Danielle cares about you too.
This province, I will ensure you are supported and your rights are
protected. Auntie Janice and Auntie Danielle.
In the case of children aged 17 and under who
the gay straight alliance,
I also want you to know that you are loved and supported as you work through your often
the government loves
emotions,
you, kids.
Feelings and beliefs. As we all know, children and teenagers are in a constant state of biological.
I don't think we need to have the government loving kids as much as they have historically.
They're constantly
doing a little bit too much loving,
trying new things, dealing with biological changes, and trying to understand a wide range of new thoughts and feelings. It's a very complicated time. In my view, one of the greatest responsibilities we as parents, teachers, and community leaders have is to preserve for our children the right to grow and develop into mature adults so that they are better prepared to make the most impactful decisions affecting their lives. Decisions like choosing a career, a partner.
Wait a sec. Who's this we business? This sounds like it's a parental duty and obligation to make sure, but okay.
Sounds like
raising children, their interaction with legal drugs like alcohol and cannabis, their sexual activities and preferences,
Legalized
and many
meth.
other adult choices. It is my view that list of adult choices includes deciding whether or not to alter one's biological sex. Making permanent and irreversible decisions regarding one's biological sex while still a youth can severely limit that child's choices in the future. Prematurely encouraging or enabling children to alter their very biology or natural growth, no matter how well-intentioned and sincere, poses a risk to that child's future that I, as Premier, am not comfortable with permitting in our province. Similarly, the risks and unfair advantages that young women and girls are experiencing when competing with biologically stronger transgender females in sporting competitions have also grown too high. After much discussion, the Government Caucus and I have therefore decided to implement the following policies and guidelines as it relates to transgender minors and athletes, including additional support.
Oh, they're cracking down on athletes too?
To secure the healthcare they need and the counseling
Well, there goes my
support for youth
shot at
identifying as transgender to ensure they can successfully work their way through their complex feelings and emotions as they grow to adulthood. First, on the issue of gender reassignment treatments for minors. For minors age 17 and under, top and bottom gender reassignment surgeries will not be permitted. For children age 15 and under, puberty blockers and hormone therapies for the purpose of gender reassignment or affirmation will also not be permitted, with the exception of those who've already commenced their treatment at this time. Minors age 16 and 17 will be permitted to commence hormone therapies for gender reassignment and affirmation purposes, so long as they are deemed mature enough to make these decisions and have parental, physician, and psychologist approval. For transgender adults, our government is currently working to attract one or more medical professionals to practice in Alberta who specialize in transgender surgery to ensure those individuals transitioning have access to an expert in Alberta to assist them with their extremely unique and complex medical needs, rather than going to Quebec, which is now the practice. We will also be building a private registry of medical professionals who specialize in this field to better support the lifelong healthcare needs of transgender Albertans, including access to needed hormones and surgery aftercare. When it comes to
so we've had some prohibitions at the front. This is like a sandwich, right? We've got the prohibitions out of the way, and now we're talking about all the things we're going to do for these people, all the support we're going to provide adults. And but I mean, what's to stop minors from going to Quebec or another province to get stuff done?
Well,
I don't know.
We need to build a wall.
Wow, wall, yes.
We're going to build the opposite of the states. We're going to keep them all in.
The government needs to keep these kids safe. Put them in government bubbles, government matrix pods.
Now, hear me out. What if we just take them to an island, and we just keep all these kids on an island?
Yeah,
and then we'll bring in, to keep them calm and whatnot. We'll just bring in a bunch of celebrities. You know,
I think there's an island not being used right now, right?
Oh yeah, that one got shut down. Yeah, it's free real estate.
Oh man, okay.
Classroom instruction on subject matter involving gender identity, sexual orientation, or human sexuality, we will be requiring parental notification and an opt-in requirement for each instance a teacher intends to give formal instruction on these subjects.
Well, here's a question. If I'm homeschooling my kids, do I have to tell the other parent if my kid chooses to identify as a fire truck or something?
I'm okay with fire truck. I'm okay with fire truck.
I don't have to tell you about that?
No, I don't think so. I think once you start getting into, well, I don't know, other forms of automobiles might be a little more questionable, but it really depends.
Right.
I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, if people's beliefs don't line up with this, are they going to be the ones coming forward and telling the parents?
What do you mean?
Like if a child comes forward to a teacher, that they feel like transitioning or what so have you, they're uncomfortable with their sexuality, and then that's supposed to be brought back to the parents from the teacher who was told this problem, right? If the teacher itself doesn't believe in that, are they going to tell us? Because we know that that's a thing. I mean, typically.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to require teachers to, your kid starts identifying as a different gender or something like that, or changes their gender identity. They're supposed to let you know, I guess, is the
okay, I see.
is a thing, right? So I mean, if I were a kid in school now, I would totally fuck with teachers. I'd be like, I'd change my gender identity every day. I just let my parents know, hey, I'm going to be fucking with teachers, and I'd force these teachers to have to call my parents every day because little Timmy has changed his gender identity yet again. Just keep them on their toes. But you know, I'm just, my brain's wired that way, and I bet you there's a few other kids whose brains are wired that way too.
Yeah, no, that's uncommon.
All right, let's keep
All
going.
third-party resource materials or presentations related to gender identity, sexual orientation, or human sexuality in our K through 12 school system will need to be pre-approved by the Ministry of Education to ensure the materials are age appropriate. For a minor, age 15 and under, the government will
better
require
only be teaching the missionary
notification
position.
and consent for a school to alter
Belly
the
to
name or
belly.
pronouns of a
Belly to
child.
belly.
For 16
Close
and
bond,
17-year-olds who
intimacy,
choose to alter
eye
their name or
contact.
pronouns, parents do not need to give
None of this
consent.
One hand on
porn.
the
but they must
Bible.
be
None of this
notified.
porn shit.
We know that nearly all parents, even those who may
One
not
hand on the
Government
Bible.
approved
their
sexual
children, will love and
positions
care for
only.
their children, no matter what choices they make. However, in the handful of rare situations where one or both of the parents reject or become abusive to a child who identifies as transgender, we have child protection laws that will be strictly enforced. The government is also designing a pilot project to
The
provide
government is there to
appropriate
love and
counseling
care for
services to
children.
support parents and youth identifying as transgender to work through the
Definitely
unique
prove
challenges
that.
these families face.
Mm.
We encourage all teachers, parents, classmates, and youth volunteers to be on the watch for any instances of bullying of youth or children for any reason, so adults can assist with putting a stop to it the moment it is detected. Our government also needs to deal with the emerging issue of the unfair disadvantages that young women and girls are experiencing when competing with biologically stronger transgender female athletes in sporting competitions. I strongly believe that those who were born male but have transitioned to or identify as female are owed the opportunity to meaningfully participate in sport. However, there are obvious biological realities that give transgender female athletes a massive competitive advantage over women and girls.
I
It
don't
is
think
not
so.
beneficial for those
I
women,
disagree.
including
What?
those who are transgender, for this divisive and sometimes dangerous situation to continue. That is why the Alberta government will work with sporting organizations active in
That's
our
what we need,
province to ensure
government
that
more
women and
involved in
girls
sports.
have the choice to compete in a women's
Don't
only
get me
division
started on the
It's not
government
doing
being
enough.
involved in
and are not
sports.
forced to compete
Gonna lose
against
it.
biologically stronger transgender female athletes. We will also work with those same sporting organizations to ensure transgender athletes are able to meaningfully participate in the sport of their choice through the expansion of co-ed or other gender-neutral divisions for athletic competitions. I understand how controversial and divisive discussions on topics of sexuality and gender
Gotta hand
can
it
be,
to her. She's got a big
especially
set of
when those
cards to come up with
conversations
this one.
involve children. I would therefore ask that as we work through implementing these policies, that we, as adults in this province, do all we can to depoliticize the discussion and focus on the well-being of the children involved, whether they are young people identifying as
Thought he was drinking
transgender,
orange juice out of a
or who
wine
find
glass.
themselves attracted to those of the same sex, or simply trying to understand the complex and often changing emotions and feelings of being teenagers. They all need our unconditional love and support. And it's to those children and teens that I want to say just how much we love you and support you in becoming the person you want to be. You never have to feel alone or isolated.
Yes,
If you do,
government
reach out to
loves
your
you.
parents, family members,
That's why we
teachers, a
tax you.
coach,
That's why we
or
control
other
your every
trusted
move. That's
adults
why we
and
lock
ask
you
for
down during
support.
COVID. We care
We, as
about
the
you.
adults in your
My
life,
parents
will be
owned
there
and
for
they
you
taxed
to
me
make
so that
sure
I
you
could
know
afford
just how
college.
amazing
Oh,
and
man.
precious you are. Thank you for listening.
Well, there you go. There is Danielle Smith's.
Honestly, I'm kind of
Message.
pissed. I'm kind of pissed. My number one shot at going to the pros was transgender Olympics. Just hopping in as like,
Well, I
women's-
was about to run like a co-ed kind of league, a female only league, but I was going to allow transgenders in there, and I was going to have like a fight club for
just that
all
golfer.
females.
Hey, that golfer couldn't do it in Alberta, and that's
So now I guess I can't do that. I don't look. I get the instinct here to protect kids. I don't need the government more involved in my kid's life. Look, government, Danny, I appreciate what you're doing, but I don't need your help protecting my kid from wokeism. I got all that covered. All right. Just end your involvement with education altogether and lower my damn taxes. That's all I ask of you. Just, we don't need more policies if you just take that out of your portfolio. And we definitely don't need government approved sports and you getting involved in sports.
No, definitely not.
I mean, this seems like something the market would handily take care of, right? We have female only, very strict sporting leagues, and we have whatever looser co-ed ones or whatever. We have, let people. It feels like if there's a demand, there's going to be an organization that fills that demand. So let's go to some of these comments here.
Legalize Fent.
Pronouns in bio detected. Opinion rejected. All right. He's an Oilers fan. G. Foss. Danielle Smith, my goat. Yeah. Well, listen, I got to say, like the message she put out was very, very like politically. I think it was pretty astute. Now, what I'm seeing on Twitter as a reaction to this is both the right and the left agree doesn't go far enough. Government isn't involved enough in school or the kids' lives. They just kind of disagree on what direction they should be involved in. The progressive left want the government to be surrogate parents essentially, and to continue loving the kids. And the right, I mean, they just want the government to go back to plain old indoctrination. You get the impression that they want to drive all the woke teachers out of public education. So who would be left teaching our kids if all the woke women were left public education? There'd be almost no one left teaching our kids. But, we could go back to when teaching was basic propaganda, like the government is for the people and by the people, like knowledge comes from approved authority figures, that it doesn't matter what you're interested in. It only matters what we say you should learn, where kids learn that the ability to achieve success is contingent on memorizing and regurgitating state approved facts, where they realize, hey, don't hurt people and take their stuff. Unless you're the government can do that. They call it taxation. Let's just go back to good old fashioned propaganda, the conservatives say, and get rid of this woke propaganda. I saw someone actually tweet, oh, now the government is no longer indoctrinating our kids. I'm like, I don't think you understand. All right. What does Justin Turdo have to say?
Don't even have any more good propaganda nowadays.
Oh, we still got lots. Government. Look, this whole thing is an exercise in how well propagandized society is, that we are asking the government to solve the problem. Even so-called patriots, freedom fighters are applauding this, and I can see why they're applauding it, but they're still asking the state to solve their problems for you. Just get your kid out of public school. Don't send them to these factories. You think that your blue-haired woke teacher who now has to mandatorily report when your conservative kid who you raised as a good God-fearing child is now decided to be trans, do you think that kid is protected from wokeism?
Doesn't matter.
I mean, what problem is this solving anyways? Are there any conservative kids out there from good conservative families that are confused about their gender? And are there any kids from progressive single moms that are there any progressive single moms who give a shit what their kid identify as at school? So no one is this isn't fixing a problem at all. Conservative kids are never going to identify as transgender, and progressive kids, their moms don't care. So
there's probably some good old farm boys from Provost who can wrestle that would like to switch genders and fight for the other team. Get a medal.
Could be. You find some interesting characters in small towns. All right, what Justin Turdo has to say here. What would happen if we affirmed other forms of dysphoria like anorexia? Well, I mean, there's a fair point there, right? It's like, okay, if I have,
I think, is anorexia not already classified as a mental illness?
Well, I guess his point is like maybe this stuff should be classified more as a mental illness and not affirmed. Maybe we shouldn't, like if we treated anorexia like gender dysphoria, for example, would we make sure that kids who felt like 90-pound girls who thought they were fat, we could liposuction them to death or something to affirm their identity? I think that would be all for it. I think that's his point, but Not sure. Gabriel Shear says here in Oklahoma, the state government took a different approach. They just send checks out to parents for private school tuition. Yeah, I mean, that seems like a better approach. I mean, I'd prefer the government not send any checks out, but if they're gonna, if they're gonna be involved in public education, at least.
Wait, do they? So they send checks out to parents for private school tuition,
Right?
Like, for everybody or just for?
I guess if you decide you don't want to go to public school, it's probably like a school voucher program. Like, and I think Alberta actually has something similar. Like, we have school choice in Alberta to a large extent. So if you don't like your school, you can send your kid to another school, like a Montessori school or one, which seems like a better approach than trying to fit a one size fits all thing onto all schools. But how school vouchers work is the money follows your child to whatever school they choose. So when you're sending
It's reimbursement.
It's a reimbursement, he said. So yeah, it's kind of along the same lines as a voucher though. Hey, Gabriel, like it gives parents more choice. It's like the government says, we'll still pay for your child's education, but you as a parent get to choose how they're educated. Like I get this sense that conservatives won't be happy until these teachers all have Elon Musk's Neuralink in their brain and Danielle Smith is directly controlling exactly what the teachers say in a classroom or something like that. I mean, that's essentially what you'd have to do to get the level of protection that they're seeking from wokeism, because you can't tell me that a woke teacher isn't going to infect the kids with their, I mean, I think of all the teachers I had growing up and I was strongly influenced by all their ideas and most of them were pretty cool. But, if I had in today's environment, I could imagine being strongly influenced, even if the teacher had to mandatorily report something to the parents.
Well, if the transgender parents are waiting for the Neuralink, then my biggest qualm with that is we're going to have John Connor's going to be a trans, and I don't know if I could get on board with that franchise again.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, have we beat this one to death? Or, I mean, look, another point I want to make about this too is if I send my kid to school, if I hire a teacher to educate my child, what do I want the government controlling what that teacher is telling my child? Do I want some mandatory rules from the government, or do I want to have a chat with that teacher? Do I want to trust that teacher to use their judgment? And there are times, for example, if your kid's going to a therapist, you want the therapist and the child to have there's an expectation of privacy there, that they have some, the therapist isn't going to tell the parent everything to help the kid so that the kid can trust them and tell them all their problems and help them through things. Right. So you're trusting these people with your child. That's why you hire them. That's why you're not doing it yourself. And it seems to me that then constraining them to reading off a script that you provide for them is like doing the opposite of what you're asking them to do. But anyways, let's see what old Saniko has to say. In Lethbridge, the Antifa leader is a teacher for junior high. Well, yeah, I mean, look, the teachers union, public education, it's full of teachers that were trained in very left-leaning institutions. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And so, and you're never going to legislate that away. What you're doing is you're saying, okay, government, we want you to control education. We want you to tightly control it like a conservative would. And the message you're sending to government is, we think you should be heavily involved in education and controlling it. And you've just given your enemy a weapon by which they will destroy you. And that's what they're doing right now, because conservatives have bought into this idea that education should be public just as much as progressives. And now conservatives are being bashed with it. Conservatives, how did it work out for you that you wanted the government involved in marriage or morality? And how's that going for you now that the left has control of those very institutions you pushed? It's not going so well. Anyways, I digress. You know what grinds my gears?
What's grinding your gears, Tony?
Yeah. Anyways. All right. Oh, this is making lots of news.
What do we got next?
How many Swifties are in the audience?
Oh, don't even get me started.
Here is there's some conspiracy theories going around about
So I'll get started with I wore the wrong sweater today. I
oh,
should have been wearing a Baltimore Ravens sweater. It was a tough week last week watching Baltimore. You know, we were supposed to go. This was our year, and guess who we run into in the AFC Championship? It's those goddamn Chiefs and their Taylor Swift army. And
Oh,
I'm
boy.
telling you, it's rigged. It's rigged.
It's rigged. Okay, well, you seem to be right in line with a bunch of MAGA hat wearing folks in America who are paranoid, according to the New Yorker,
Make Alberta great again.
about Taylor Swift's involvement in the NHL. This is kind of a longish article. What's the gist of this article?
So the gist of it basically is the timing seems impeccable. I'm not actually an NFL script supporter. I think that it just the luck of the draw. The article is funny, and it basically says that the NFL is scripted because they're down viewership. They're bringing in this power couple, and sure, they got together, whatever. That's not to say that it wouldn't have happened, but they're bringing in this power couple with the Chiefs and Travis Kelce, who was already one of the more famous players in the NFL because of their show and their podcast. Him and his brother have a podcast that has a lot of interaction. Right. And the Chiefs played like garbage all season and miraculously made it all the way through to the Super Bowl. And it just seems as time has gone on and progressed, Taylor Swift is getting more and more airtime every game, after plays, in between plays. And they reached out to Taylor Swift to go do the Super Bowl because of it. Taylor Swift said no, obviously, because she's on her Eras tour right now and is probably one of the richest women in the world.
Right.
And then the conspiracy comes in where they're twisting it left wing because Travis Kelce is he's labeled a Pfizer guy in the NFL, and he's a big vaccine supporter. And Taylor Swift has been very vocal about her being supporting of Biden, right? So I think that's the gist of it. And there's obviously more to it than that. I'm obviously just chapped that, my sweet, sweet Ravens got put out in the AFC Championship again. Well, not again, first time ever. But
oh boy,
Taylor Swift is having too big of an impact on this world, and I don't care what anybody says. I'll die on that hill.
You'll die on that hill, huh?
I'll die on
well,
that hill.
Are you one of these guys? So are you a Swift hater, or like?
I wouldn't say I'm a Swift hater. I actually pre-2020-ish, 2021, then I was a big Swift supporter, and since then I'm a Swift hater, yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of these misogynists. Well, let me show you here why your attitude is completely wrong, mister. And let me scold you.
Get me in
this.
check
This
here.
is a meme that was going around. I thought it was interesting. Your daughters are watching you hate Taylor Swift for supporting her boyfriend, and hearing you complain about her taking 60 seconds of airtime out of a 3-hour game. They hear, be smaller, be less, do better.
How about what they should be hearing is don't cheer for the Chiefs.
Well, listen, Taylor Swift is saving NHL or NHL. Is it? It's not the
it's
NHL.
NFL.
It's NFL, right? It's, I'm not very good on sports balls. But here I made my own meme about this. Your sons are watching their Swiftie moms scratch their heads going, what does she see in this ugly barbarian? And what they hear is, don't be ugly. Don't be a barbarian. Don't be you. Do better, moms.
I don't want that message getting out there. It's like my whole MO.
Oh man, I tell you. Well, okay, so what? Like, I had a guy on my Facebook tell me that all of sports, professional sports, is scripted. There's a formula to figure it out. I don't get it. The
big thing with the NFL right now is it does lean towards, when you look at how the seasons play out, it leans towards like the commissioners and the owners kind of having a say in who's going to win based on who has the biggest fan base and who's going to bring in the most revenue. That being said, you could easily correlate that to the people with the biggest fan base and the biggest revenue are going to attract more better players.
Right. So, I mean, how else would they affect the game? Like the Ravens were beating Kansas City. Were they told to take a fall or?
Interesting, you bring that up.
Oh,
so
okay.
There was a different referee scheduled for the game because this was a Baltimore home seed game. It's the first time Lamar's ever won home seed in the playoffs. It's the first time he's ever been to the AFC. It was a Baltimore home seed game. People playing in Baltimore have a historically low win rate. Like the away teams have a low win rate in the last, I think, 5 years or whatever it is. So now they bring in this other ref a month or maybe the game was set and then they changed the ref. And the ref is now, I forget his name, but his stats, he's got the highest, most penalized home teams and the highest winning percentage for away teams. And there was many calls in that game where sure, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. It might have, but we won't know. But there was non-calls on calls that should have been made. So that's how you could rig it. You could rig it with guys who are going to call the game the way you want to.
But if but even with bad calls, you could still win against, even if they're calling plays against you or whatever, right?
Sometimes. I mean,
but you just said that they didn't win based on the bad calls. I mean, I saw a bit of that game, and it looked like the Ravens missed a clutch field goal, and the crowd turned, and next thing you know, KC was picking up all this momentum, and the Ravens were wilting.
I hate to say it, you're right. The Ravens would have lost that game with or without the reffing, but you can't deny me that the reffing situation was not all telling.
Okay, I mean, I don't know enough about it, but I'll grant you that the reffing. But also, I mean, there's going to be coincidences like this all the time. Like refs change out. And the only reason you're noticing this coincidence now and not other times when it happens, when it doesn't go the way it should have been scripted, is because it's convenient. That's called confirmation bias. It's a cognitive fallacy, and I think you probably know that.
No, my sweet Ravens.
But here's what's going to happen now. The right wing, did you see Donald Trump attack Taylor Swift or whatever?
I did. I didn't look into it, but I did see that link come up.
You're right. And so now what's predictable, what's going to happen, because Taylor Swift has been relatively political neutral. I know a lot of Republicans kind of dug her because of her values and different things like that. But now she's getting, there's no spot for her left on the right. I mean, her boyfriend did a Pfizer ad. So he's obviously a shill for Big Pharma, and he's irredeemable. Like, the right wing is really good at this, and they're as good as the left. The left and the right are equally as good at this, at pushing people on over, because they don't, they try to have a nuanced view, and then they realize, oh, I'm no longer welcome over here. I guess I'm going to support the Democrats. And so that's what's going to happen. Trump and the right wing are making it easier for all of Taylor Swift's fan base to get out the vote for Biden. And, that's where all this hate is getting
the Swifties. Folks. I think my biggest qualm with this whole thing, just having Taylor Swift on the Chiefs, is the Chiefs were already an insufferable franchise of fans just because they have been that good for the last 5-6 years. He's undoubtedly one of the best quarterbacks in the game. They put a good team around him. He makes bad teams look good. You can't deny that. One of the things that everybody says is they're like, well, why don't you want Taylor Swift getting screen time? She was always a football fan. Like, she grew up in the States. She's always a football fan. And I'm like, yeah, well, she grew up in Philly. And then everybody's like, well, yeah, she was an Eagles fan. You don't just switch. You're not just like, you don't, like, I'm an Oilers fan. If I moved to Calgary, I'm sure as hell.
Oh, wait a second. Isn't Kelsey's brother play for the Eagles?
Yeah.
So maybe she's just trying to get close to the Eagles that way.
Then why is she wearing a Kelsey 87 jersey?
Well, she's got to cheer on her boyfriend if she's going to get close to the Eagles. That's her closest.
Maybe. Hey, that might be the next conspiracy.
What if Swift is playing 3D chess?
Then I would take everything I just said.
Here's my question. What does Kelsey get out of this? Like, is this going to go anywhere? because
He
she's
gets
she's
nailed Taylor
34.
Swift.
I mean, her reproductive window is rapidly closing. I got to imagine that a barbarian like Kelsey is going to want a few offspring.
Man,
Is
and
this
what
just a
I don't
fling
get
or
is
what?
like, sure, Taylor Swift's kind of hot, but Taylor Swift is nothing compared to the talent that he could be pulling. And he had his own dating show called
Right.
Catching Kelsey, and he was turning down like cheerleaders who were solid 10s. It just doesn't make sense.
Oh
Taylor
boy.
Swift looks like
Right.
she makes fans for chicks who give TV.
Maybe you're twisting me over to the conspiracy side. The next album is NFL. Then she will dump him and she'll move on to the NHL. Oh, that's good. Maybe she can pull Connor McDavid or someone like that. And
well, and that's what I said. Everybody was like, this is just misogyny. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody cared when Carrie Underwood was dating Mike or is married to Mike Fisher now. When they first started, it was just like, hey, good for him.
Or what about
like, everybody hates Mike Fisher.
Jessica Simpson with Tony Romo?
Yeah, nobody cared.
Yeah.
So
right. Well, here, listen. Let's say something positive about Taylor. This whole situation. She's bringing a lot of new fans and eyeballs to the NFL. So now, good on the NFL. The NFL is going to be able to charge more for you to watch sports ball. And
at least unlike the NHL, you can actually watch NFL games without having cable.
No. There you go. All right. Okay, let's move on.
Heat it up.
I'm done with
it up.
Oh, gears are grinding. Hey. Okay, let's see. Oh, I don't want to go to that one yet. Let's go to this convoy, God's Army, God's Convoy.
Hell yeah. The Texas Crusaders. Let's go.
Yes, they're headed down there to take care of the border once and for all. They've learned one thing. It's that trucker convoys get things done.
Texas forever, baby.
And they're headed down there to take matters into their own home. But apparently their mission is falling into chaos, according to this report. The God's Convoy trucker convoy that's headed to the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas in a Take Our Borders Back campaign is off to a rocky start, according to a report from Wired. Okay, now wait a sec. Wired and Raw, these are these are lefty media outlets, I suspect.
No, there's no chance that the people standing against the Texas Freedom Convoy of God's
what I'm saying is these guys, these media outlets are going to give them a bad name. They're biased, right? They're biased against the convoy, so they're going to print bad stories. But I've just noticed.
Look at your targeted ads.
I know. I know.
What have you been looking at?
For those of you listening at home, there's a targeted ad. Your boy here has been looking up swimming trunks because I got to go on a beach vacation soon. And there's a swimming trunk that has a big rooster right where my junk would be. And it says, "Stop staring at my cock."
Look at the ones on the right.
And you know what? I kind of like it.
Look at my peener. Fuck it. Let's drink beer.
It's horrible. You guys are finding out all about things. Google, you're screwing me. Anyways, the movement aimed to amass thousands of trucks at the border in what organizers called a biblical protest of the record number of migrants. Yeah, because if there's one thing that God and Jesus are known for, it's definitely repelling immigrants and telling them to fuck off.
Yeah, sure.
But it was hindered before it even started. What organizers promised would be a force 700,000 strong saw just dozens set off from Virginia Beach Monday. The low turnout was blamed on right-wing paranoia that the event was an FBI trap. Well, that's reasonable paranoia right there. I mean, these things generally are. And now they hit the road. They've been hit by many trials. According to one convoy member, some woke up to find their tires had been slashed outside a hotel they were staying at. Others said that when the group assembled at a meeting point in Norfolk, Virginia, the number of trucks was tiny and none are joined since.
12 trucks doesn't even cause a traffic jam on the QE2.
Right. A bizarre incident reportedly took place when the convoy's main bus pulled over on the shoulder of a highway and ejected one of its passengers.
I wonder what that guy was saying.
According to a live stream that reported on the incident, it's not known why the passenger was booted, but he was left stranded in Florence, South Carolina without his wallet. Oh, boy.
He clearly was not one of God's soldiers.
Well, look, pilgrims and God's soldiers, you're going to face all sorts of trials and tribulations. Hang in there, boys. Hang in there.
Got a dog pulling cords under.
All right. Well, I mean, this is a it's an interesting dilemma.
I'm more curious because I was looking, I couldn't find anything, but they were having a national hearing about whether or not that razor wire had to come down on the border. Like they were going down to cut the razor wire, right? Like that's the last I heard of, and then I haven't heard anything since. So I don't know if they did it. You'd think you would hear about that.
Well, I've heard Texas is going to be pushing back against that, right? They're going to be putting up razor wire against that court order and exerting their own sovereignty. So
more razor wire.
Canadian Libertarian says, "God bless Texas, honk honk." Hey,
Texas forever, baby.
Yeah, baby.
I'm a certified firefighter in Texas. Fun fact.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Should I wouldn't try crossing the border into Texas right now. God's Army might have something to say about you trying to fight fires down there.
Yeah, no, God's Army would not be a fan of young Jared, that's for sure.
No. Oh boy. Okay.
Again.
All right, let's move on to some Canadian news here. We've got well, you were a hockey player. Did you see anything like this going on when you were playing hockey? We have 5 players. 4 of them in the NHL are currently charged with a sexual assault involving stemming from the 2018 Canadian World Junior players. So they were all on Team Canada, Team Junior. Apparently 5 of these guys sexually assaulted a young lady. And
well, you hate to see it at all. Unfortunately, as time goes on, like I personally didn't see it, but you like all these stories that are coming out from the time frames that I was playing, and
right.
it was happening all the time. I mean, look back at Theo Fleury, right? Like
right.
As long as time's gone back, Chicago just had a big scandal. Like my hometown Edson, they just got a junior team, and I want to say like 2-3 years ago, this coach that they brought in was I don't know what came of it, if he got charged or not, so I should probably watch what I say, but he got ran out of there pretty quick, and there's a bunch of accusations thrown around along the same lines with male players. And then once they started digging into him, they realized he had complaints like this from other teams before, and that's why he was unemployed. I mean, you really do hate to see local town hero Carter Hart, right? He's from Sherwood Park, hometown hero. I mean, obviously there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on behind closed doors, and if it's true, then I'm glad they're fessing up and going forward with it. And if it's not true, I'm just curious to see how this plays out, because there's been cases proving both sides in the past.
Right. It's interesting why it's coming up now. You know, I was a little skeptical of this case at first, just because apparently there was video, just from what I was reading, there was video of her consenting. Like one of the boys got a video about saying that she consents or whatever. But then apparently it sounds like things happened after she passed out or was roofied or whatever. And a bunch of things were done to her at that time that she did not consent to, she couldn't have meaningfully consented to. And some of I've heard some background information. Actually, a friend of mine, his old lady cut hair of a lawyer involved in this case, and that lawyer divulged some details that were frankly shocking, mortifying. And if
like from her deposition, or her,
the lawyer is representing her, something like that. She's some powerful lawyer. So I mean, she was defecated on, every orifice was torn, and she was unconscious while this is going on. And so
I don't want to sound like I'm on the wrong side of it, because I likely make jokes, but if that shit's true, then fucking lock them up.
Exactly.
I mean, there have been cases, and it's tough to say without actually being there. Nobody knows the real story, and even the court case isn't going to expose all those details, even if they're true. Like, I know you don't lie on the stand, but people do lie on the stand. I forget the guy's name. There was not too long ago, it would have been 2015 or 16. There was a super strong defensive tackle, played for Baylor in the NCAA, like a football player. And in his draft year, some girl accused him of raping her. And then he went to prison, or they at least went to court, lost all his scholarships, obviously lost all
Yeah, I
draft
remember this. Yeah.
protection, and then it came out 5 years later that it didn't happen, right?
Right.
And now he plays in the CFL,
Right.
which I'm sure he's still playing professional football, but he lost
Everything.
let's say if he's got a 5-year career, he's losing out on like easily $80 million. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All because she's just like, and she got nothing from it. So
Well,
it's tough for me as an
and
athlete.
then there was the Duke lacrosse case. I don't know if you remember that, where the lacrosse team was accused of something similar, and this went on for over a year or two, and then some evidence came forward, like video evidence of them being not even anywhere near, and couldn't have been near the location where the sexual assault allegedly happened, and they were totally exonerated. But they had their names dragged through the mud. I think they were expelled from school. They were just, their lives were destroyed because of the allegations. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean,
if I'm Carter Hart at the 2018 World Juniors, you don't have to like force somebody. You're a celebrity. You're a celebrity.
Yeah, yeah.
That's your 5 minutes of fame.
It's weird, and maybe you could explain this. Like, you kind of mentioned sexual assault from leadership, right? Like that there's a lot of that going on. Well, I mean, in organized sports, I mean, remember the gymnasts, the U.S. gymnasts who were sexually abused by coaches and medical staff, and
well, a lot of that comes from like these high level athletes, even like medium level athletes are leaving home,
right,
14, 15 years old.
But do you think that plays into it? Because I haven't really played hockey before. Is there a culture? I mean, you got a bunch of young studs, hormones raging. They're going to battle every night. It seems like a fairly sexually charged environment to start with. Would that be fair?
Oh, yeah,
You got puck bunnies, throwing themselves at you. And then you're away from home on the road and like experiencing all this freedom all of a sudden. Like, do you think it's kind of like a Lord of the Flies thing where a highly charged sexual environment leads to up in the ante, pushing the boundaries even further and further, like
group sex or
whatever. But even like pulling a puck bunny, right? Like doing a one night stand, that is not entire. That doesn't denote a level of respect for that woman, right? It's like you're using her for the night and then discarding her and moving on to the next one.
But I think by definition, a puck bunny, like,
right,
they're okay with that.
It's mutually consensual. I mean, obviously these young women are making terrible choices and should stay away from that crowd. I mean, I kept my daughters far away from hockey players, right? Because of this perception I have. I was just checking in with you to see if I was ready to do so.
Like between players, for sure, the camaraderie, things get out of hand really fast in any circumstance, right? Like you could go. Sure. I remember in junior, we'd go and there'd be a high school party, and then it would be like the high schoolers versus like the high school age junior players, right? And so there's 5 or 6 of us and 5 or 6 of them, and then one guy's picking a fight, and then now you're in a high school fight, right? Yeah. And obviously that's not the same, but it's same mentality, right? Like if one guy's gonna do it, then you think it's right. You're taking these guys away from their parents in the formative years. And now that's where the coaching issues comes in and like head staff. Cause it's like, if I'm 16 and I want to go to the NHL and my coach says, if you don't do X, X, and Y, then you're never going to play on a team in this league again. You're never going to have a shot. So now you're doing X and Y because you want to make it. So,
yeah, it's a terrible situation. Well, if there's one thing we've learned the past week, it's that the government needs to write a law about this somehow to protect the kids because they love the kids.
The kids are the government's biggest.
Yeah, they just love them so much. Canadian Libertarian says it's far too difficult to make any judgments when we're not privy to all the facts. Absolutely, 100%. Let's wait before we execute people to find out some actual facts. Hear both sides of the story. Let the justice system prevail.
What's grinding their gears?
Yeah. But I don't know. Okay, let's see. Let's move on here. Here's something that's kind of interesting if you're a wrestling fan and you like Netflix and chill. The WWE is joining with Netflix to stream WWE Raw starting next year at its biggest jump in live entertainment.
Wait,
What do you know about
Raw, WWE Raw is partnering with Netflix?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if this is new to anybody else, but I've been going Raw to Netflix for a minute now. So, I mean, I guess we're going to make it official. Is that the name? It's not Netflix and chill anymore. It's just Raw Dog and Netflix.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if they start getting more into live events now, because Netflix is dominated in every other category, movies, TV shows. They're crushing it right now. Are they going to go ahead with, like, I know you mentioned something about the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, the UFC is amalgamated with the WWE now as well, I believe. And like they're under the same umbrella company. So it'll be interesting to see if Netflix captures that market as well. But it says here the 10-year deal is valued at more than $5 billion. Netflix will have the option to exit the deal after 5 years and extend it for another decade. Streaming platform will be able to stream Raw globally and will start the agreement exclusively to its US, Canadian, UK, and Latin America.
This seems like a big deal.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really
I'm not I don't watch WWE, but I feel like this is another step towards Netflix monopolizing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, look, they're spending a huge nut on it. So that's going to cut into, so they're either going to have to get more viewers by doing this or raise their rates, right? And if they start raising their rates, now the other streaming platforms look more attractive.
Well, look at WWE's most recent signing. Did they not just sign Logan Paul?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So they're tapping into the young market. Yeah. Logan Paul, WWE. He's officially a WWE member. So, I mean, they're tapping into a lot of different demographics there for sure.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I know Amazon Prime is partnered with One Championship. So that's UFC's biggest rival, I think. And so you can get a lot of they put on a lot of their events on there.
Yeah, they've lost a couple fighters. The UFC's lost a couple fighters to One Championship.
Yeah. I mean, what was his name? He used to be. I'm trying to remember. He was a middleweight champ for a while in the UFC, and then Rich Franklin. He went there to become an executive with One. They're based out in Asia, and Mighty Mouse is fighting for them. A bunch of other guys that used to fight in the UFC are fighting for them. I guess they pay more, and they do an interesting. They have a looser rule set too. I think you can like elbow people and knee down to opponents and stuff like that.
Elbow or whatever.
Yeah, and like knee down to opponents and stuff like that. And then they also put on at one of their events. If you watch them, they're kind of interesting. They'll do a jiu-jitsu match, high level jiu-jitsu guys. Then they'll do a Muay Thai match between high level Muay Thai, and then they'll do an MMA. So they'll do like all three different ones in the same night.
What do you know about Bare Knuckle Fight Club? Like it's an actual promotion that they're now like they have fighters. Is there going to be more poop on heads?
I don't know.
I'm intrigued. I have no idea what the reference is, but
yeah, tell us more.
I need to know more. That one kind of caught me off guard. Bare Knuckle Fight Club. Like, what was his name? Platinum Mike Perry was a big UFC name, and then he switched to I think Bellator, maybe One Championship. Didn't work out.
Yeah, we never talk about Bare Knuckle Fight Club.
Oh, this one.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like the one Mike Perry fights in.
Yeah.
I've seen some of that. That looks pretty crazy. And then Jorge Masvidal has started his own bare knuckle MMA organization. So
MMA is basically already bare knuckle.
Well, now they're taking their gloves off and fighting. I guess it makes grappling easier and different things like that, right? So
I thought they could grab their gloves when they were grappling.
They're not allowed to grab gloves. That's illegal. But a lot of UFC fighters say that the UFC gloves, like it's hard to close your hand with them. It's hard, like you have to really struggle. So I don't know. Oh yeah, and then there's the news with Vince McMahon. If you haven't heard about the Vince McMahon lawsuit, it's interesting. Have you heard about this?
Fire it up, Tim. I'm curious.
I'm gonna see if I can find something about it, because I haven't heard much about it. I just heard that there was a long text string and he was banging his former secretary, and then
Nice. Hey, nice.
Yeah, something.
I don't have a problem with just secretaries, you know, just like as long as they're of age and consenting, fucking go nuts. I don't know why we're canceling guys banging secretaries.
I think it's a sex trafficking lawsuit. Okay, let's see. Let's start with what
my foot in my mouth.
Yeah, you're on the wrong side of history here, bud.
Hey, anti-sex trafficking. Anti-sex trafficking, for the record.
Is on the wrong side of history.
Hey, young all you listening, don't sell people for sex. It's bad. We're not endorsing that.
Okay, let's see what it has to say here. Co-defendant in Vince McMahon's sex trafficking lawsuit says he was a victim too. This is Vice News, so we're taking it with a big grain of salt here. A lawyer for John Laurinaitis, a co-defendant in the explosive civil sex trafficking lawsuit brought last week against WWE founder Vince McMahon and WWE itself, appeared to corroborate central claims in the suit in a statement to Vice News today, while disputing Laurinaitis' role as described in the complaint. Edward Brennan, the lawyer, said the client is himself a victim, just like the plaintiff, Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee. The truth will come out, Brennan added. In the suit brought last week in federal court in Connecticut, Grant says that McMahon and Laurinaitis sexually assaulted her in WWE's corporate offices, and that McMahon also trafficked her to Laurinaitis, the company's former head of talent relations. McMahon, according to the suit, went so far as to schedule appointments for her to sexually service Laurinaitis. Interesting.
I have heard nothing of this. I saw sex trafficking. And then I also saw Vince McMahon, and I immediately was just like, Vince McMahon is the best, and I completely forgot about all of the trafficking, and now I'm really backpedaling here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta admit, didn't do my research on this one.
Yeah, we're not doing what Canadian libertarians said and waiting for all the facts to come in, because that's what we do. We rush to judgment, and that's what we like to do, and judgment should be rushed.
That's what God told us to do. As one of God's warriors, we judge everyone.
Janelle Grant's attorney, frankly overwhelmed by more possible victims coming forward against WWE and Vince McMahon. Severe allegations of sexual abuse and much more. The pages of the document have been spread through the pro wrestling world and beyond this point. Yeah. Now, I heard there was some text. What I want to do is look up text stream Vince McMahon.
Oh, Vince McMahon, eh? I wonder if he was on the list.
Well, I would. The Epstein Island.
He for sure was on the list. He was big enough to be on the list.
Think. All right, I'm not seeing anything come up about text messages about. There's stories about it, but I want to see the actual messages, because apparently they're pretty juicy. But here we are gossiping about McMahon.
Love me some good sex trafficking.
Well, there we go. So. Poop on head is a reference from that lawsuit. So it's it. Yeah, you're with this lawsuit going on, especially that it's against McMahon, and it's easy to see why McMahon stepped away. The WWE is trying to keep its hands clean, given its recent amalgamations with UFC and with Netflix, apparently. And too long didn't read. Vince pooped on her head. Oh, that's fascinating. That makes sense. Though.
Nice.
Okay.
Hey, of all the things you're gonna do, like that's gonna get you canceled or shut down, I can think of so many other things. If you're risking it all, that's just it's just not gonna get it done for me. That's all I gotta say about that. That seems like more of a nuisance than anything.
Oh man. Yeah. Mark. Okay. All right. We've done the sexual abuse. What else is next? Oh yeah. Okay. We've got some some stuff popping off in the Middle East, around the Yemen area there.
Born too young to deploy in the Middle East. Born too early, or born too
Yeah.
late to deploy in
Yeah.
the Middle East.
Yeah,
Born
damn
just
it, we're
in time.
gonna miss the draft. U.S. warship had close call with Houthi missiles in the Red Sea. Cruise missile launched by the Houthis in the Red Sea on Tuesday night came within a mile of a U.S. destroyer before it was shot down, 4 U.S. officials told CNN. The closest the Houthi attack has come to a U.S. warship. So there's been all these missiles fired off by the Houthis. And, this is kind of a case of, again, U.S. foreign policy blowing back on itself. The U.S. has been involved in arming and supporting and bombing in Yemen for decades. And, well, it turns out they tend to arm the wrong people and engage in too much fuckery in the Middle East, and it never works out well for the U.S.
Yeah, no. Basically, what I took from that article is they're like, yeah, we used our CIWS system, which is, I think it's a 7.62 gun or whatever. It might be bigger than that, and it shoots like 1,000 rounds a minute minimum. And you watch those things at night with their tracers, and it's like it's just breathing fire. So for that thing to work, it has to get within a mile and be a confirmed threat, and that's their missile interception system. But their other interception system works. They've never had something get within 8 miles. Oh. So I'm convinced that the States and CNN put out this statement saying like, "Hey, this was a fuck up on our part because this missile got within 1 mile and we had to use our 4th line of defense instead of our 1st line of defense."
Right. So maybe there obviously there's drum beats for war. The typical neocons, Nikki Haley types are saying we got to strike back at Iran because Iran is backing the Houthis. And, the neocons have been pounding the drum for war in Iran for years. I mean, there was that general, I'm trying to remember his name, but he talked about all the countries that they needed to overthrow, right? And it was Iraq and Afghanistan and I can't remember, but they've done all of them. Libya, they've done all of them except Iran, and so Iran is still there. Hey, you got a compliment on your mic there. Yeah, that's a nice mic. What kind of mic do you got there, young Jared?
I've got a Yeti Blue X.
A Yeti Blue X, nice.
I think. I don't know.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure Tyler's the one who told me to get this mic. So shout out Tyler.
General Wesley Clark. Let me see if I can find that clip. General Wesley Clark. 7 countries. That's the one.
Wesley Clark. That rings a bell, actually.
All right, let's take a look at this video. It's 2 minutes long.
10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs from the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years." starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
There you go. Iran.
The truth is,
So it's Iran's turn to be taken out by the military-industrial complex. So there we go.
Hey, whatever pays for our planes, let's fire it up.
Yeah. Oh, Justin Turdo. I don't know how we missed this. Did you talk about the court saying the Emergency Act was unconstitutional? If not, what's your take?
We did talk about it, but I feel like our mics last episode.
Oh, yeah. We had
doing
mic
us
problems.
justice.
Yeah, we're getting this podcast shit dialed in now. Well, obviously, it feels like we're vindicated somewhat, right? Like, yeah, of course it was unconstitutional. I mean, maybe our constitution is worth something after all. Maybe it's not an actual just toilet paper to wipe our asses with and stuff. But, you know, is it going to stop it from next time? I don't know. Is anyone actually going to suffer any repercussions? I mean, now that the government has been found to do something illegal, what do those people that made those decisions, what do they get? I mean, Lamenti, the justice minister in charge of this stuff, went Twitter silent. His Twitter page, his Twitter account went dark, and I think it was erased. And then the next day he was retiring to a cushy gig at a law firm, and everyone was thanking him for his amazing service and working so hard on Indigenous justice and different things like that. And so is Lamenti going to serve any jail time? I mean, if young Jared, if you or I were to, why is my name Young Jared on this, by the way? Oh boy. I've been going by Young Jared the whole time. Anyways.
Don't worry. They know you. They know it's your show. Hey, it's your world. I'm just living in your world. Your world.
No, but look, if you or I were to invoke an Emergencies Act and use our guns to tell people they couldn't go to work and that they had to show us proof of vaccination before we let them go from point A to point B, and you know, made them do all these things and seize their bank accounts, I don't know. I think that we would be arrested. We'd be charged with a few felonies.
I mean, I'd like to know where I could learn how to invoke the Emergencies Act, because the NFL is out of control right now, and I think it's a national emergency. We need to get this shit dialed in.
No,
but
fair enough.
No, actually, like we had talked, my point kind of, I think, was a little bit misunderstood last time, where I'm saying, you know, there is a time and a place that's correct to invoke.
How dare you? That's the same thing you said last week. I didn't misunderstand you at all.
I did feel like I got ostracized.
There's a time and a place for it. Well, let's hear what this time and place is.
There's a time and a place, and this was not the time or the place. And the fact that it was evoked should have consequences, and it's not going to. And that was my point, and I didn't state that clearly enough.
Fair enough. They may rewrite it to justify invoking it for other purposes in the future. That's the problem with the document that suggests your fundamental rights can be overridden. Yeah, the charter has that pesky notwithstanding clause that said, yeah, you have these rights unless the government decides it doesn't, notwithstanding that the public interest is served by you not having those rights, whatever the public interest is, and however they can define it in so many ways. So, look, they got lucky and got the right judge, but the question is, do most judges hold that, hold the Supreme Court's view on the Constitution and that the Emergencies Act? But I don't know. I think their big complaint with it, from what I understand, is that this was an Ottawa incident. It wasn't a national incident. It was like something happening in Ottawa. It didn't threaten national security. It didn't threaten anything national. So why aren't they using bylaws?
What was it, 2 weeks ago? I know it's not all the rage anymore and people stopped caring about Palestine, but the Palestine riots or peaceful protests that were going on, if they're going to invoke the Emergencies Act for the Freedom Convoy, then they sure as hell have to do it again for the free Palestine shit that was going on. It's just, I don't see how you can justify doing it to one group other than, or instead of doing it to both, I don't know. I mean, obviously one party aligns more with the ideals of the current party in power, which results in a different outcome. But
Well, I mean, that's the point of government, is to align with special interests and destroy civil liberties.
the point of government is to protect the people and provide the people with the necessities required for life.
Young
That's what I
Jared went to public school.
I
Right?
couldn't afford private school. I
Yeah,
couldn't
well,
afford private school.
Congrats, you have been indoctrinated, and they've
Holy
done a
Redeemer,
good job.
Shout out, Holy Redeemer, for my
Did a good
Catholic
job.
school education.
Inherent in something as permanent, essential, or inherent. He's talking about inherent, inalienable, inherent rights, things that can't be taken away. And great observation, young Jared.
Hey,
Who are these people?
another public school.
I think it was a horrible observation. Government isn't there to protect you. It's literally a criminal gang. It was born.
The government is supposed to be there to protect you, is what I should have said.
Wow,
and the fact
that's
that they're
what
not,
you're-
they're not shutting down peaceful protests.
That's what they
because
taught you in
don't
public
align.
schools. They're supposed to. It's not supposed to. It never was. It was always just a criminal gang there to plunder. It was born in plunder and conquest. It exists by plunder and conquest. It only exists by doing things to you that you are not allowed to do to others.
True.
That's the only way.
True. The principle.
We're going to get them.
The teachers, the principals.
So you're a true believer. Canadian Libertarian gets it.
I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know.
Well, it's a slow process, Canadian Libertarian. We'll get him.
Someday.
We'll get him one of these days. We'll unindoctrinate him.
Right now, this brain is too full of World War II facts and Travis Kelce conspiracy.
All right. Let's move to grind our gears. What's grinding your gears this week, Jared?
Oh, I got so many things here. What's grinding my gears? Actually, you know what, Tim? This was your idea. You lead this one off.
Well, I'll tell you what's grinding my gears. It's people at Costco who just meander, who just kind of don't notice there's other people around them, who will park their cart on one side and then walk over to the other side and completely block an 8-foot wide aisle so that you can't get past them, completely oblivious to the fact that there are others there. Grinds my gears.
I have to jump on board with you on that one. I was also at Costco today, and I ditched my crutches in the shopping cart and used the shopping cart as crutches. And watching people navigate Costco with a shopping cart is more abysmal than watching people navigate Sherwood Park with a vehicle. So I do have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, what is it with these people, right? Like, what do they? How do they not have situational awareness? Are they not aware that there are other people in this world?
And I think that, at the end of the day, it's just everybody's worried about their damn phones. It's a shame.
They're worried about their damn phones. These
That
people
grinds.
are worried about their toilet paper and whether that would look good on my counter or whether. Yeah,
I forgot about the toilet paper.
Yeah.
Toilet paper. Man, those are the good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. Toilet paper was our currency.
What grinds my gears right now, I'm dealing with a lot of truck stuff. Just like every 2-3 weeks, it seems like my POS Ford is really just crushing my soul. Every time I'm like, all right, credit card's paid off, money in the bank account. Let's book a trip. Let's buy a nice dinner. Let's do something. And every time I turn around, this piece of shit Ford just costs me $2,000, $3,000. So I'd say then you start looking around. You're looking at Chevys. You're looking at Dodges. And then it gets me thinking, maybe a little bit like politicians. You got your Fords. Right. Your Fords are your conservatives. They work really well, and then when they fuck up, it's really expensive fix.
That gets bad.
Takes them a long time to get back on the road. And then if you look more towards the liberal side, you're looking at a Chev, because they're nicer, they're really welcoming, they're really comfortable, and they've got the strongest trannies. So
boy,
that's something you got to consider.
Well, that is something you got to consider.
I mean, I'm always looking at trannies when I'm buying a truck. and I'm buying liberal. If that's
It's
the
important.
case.
Fair enough. All right. Well, there you go. That's what grinds our gears. Write what grinds your gears down in the comments. Smash that subscribe button. Hit the bell to be notified. Follow us on YouTube. And look in the links there for young Jared's newly formed YouTube channel. He's putting together some creative videos over there for a discerning audience, let's say.
Before they all get taken down for copyright violations.
All right, peace. We'll see you guys next week. Feel free to send us your ideas of what we should cover, and we'll hit it up. Peace.